Alright, buckle up, because the original Neon Genesis Evangelion isn't your typical giant robot fighting monsters show. It's a psychological maze. What if I told you that Anno himself said Eva is a story that repeats, and this story kept playing over and over so many times? Lean back, because I'm gonna forward impact this bit. Let me explain you the lore before the series and each impact first, because I think they're just barely explained at this point. Billions of years ago, the first ancestral race existed, and these were like god beings. For us, known as aliens, in the show they're sometimes called the Far. They created the seed of life, which are also beings that just create life in the galaxy. We see two kinds of these seeds in the form of Lilith and Adam. Adam creates own beings called angels, and they can decide their own physical form, which we can see in the anime. Lilith creates fixed form creatures, like humans. And this is also why we have these strange looking moons, because they're the transporter, or carrier, for these seeds of life. They're also sent with a set of a spear of Longinus, alongside each moon. And that's why we have the strange looking spear that's often in the anime or any movie you'll actually see. Now 4 billion years ago, Adam landed on our planet, and before he created the first angels, Lilith tumbles down and causes the first impact, also destroying her spear of Longinus. But why did the first impact actually happen? Was the crash of Lilith so hard? No. It was because it was never meant for two seeds to land on the same planet, because if they would combine, they would produce a being that's similar to the Far. Adam was sealed in Lilith, and they combined, and that's how life began on planet Earth, folks. So two beings produced on the same planet would just be a fight-off, and due to the difference in power, of course, this is counterproductive to the goal of the Far. But anyways, they created the spears as a sort of safety mechanism to pin them down. Quite literally. So anyways, the second impact. Miss Katsuragi and the gang find Adam in a stasis on the North Pole and cause the second impact because they experimented with it. And Gendo Ikari is also there. After the experiments failed, Mr. Katsuragi places his daughter inside a plug so she can survive, knowing what's to come. During all of this, Adam is placed in an embryonic state and the world is crumbling in the second impact. And that's actually where we get to the original series, Neon Genesis Evangelion, a new stage. We'll come to the other impacts in a moment. We first gotta discuss the movies and the anime itself, because they do have similarities, but they're driven in a completely different direction the longer you watch. You know Sealy, those Illuminati-like robots? They found an ancient text created by the Far, and it's called the Dead Sea Scrolls, which by the way actually exists in real life. It explains them pretty much everything about the creation and how to cause the impacts. So they decide to make the Human Instrumentality Project. All beings should lose physical bodies and consciousness and dissolve in Fanta. Everyone is made out of LCL, that's that orange stuff you always see. And just because your personal ego or AT field is protecting you from that, you are not falling apart. You will notice people just turning into Fanta every once in a while. We're now gonna fly over the characters in the basic anime, so stand by my side. It all begins with Shinji Ikari, your not-so-typical teenage hero who gets summoned to pilot the mysterious EVA Unit 01 by his dad, Gendo. But Shinji isn't eager to save the world. No. He's mostly terrified, anxious, and just desperately wants to be noticed. He's not just saying, I'm gonna protect everyone, he's whispering, I just shouldn't run away. And that whisper, that's the heartbeat of the whole show. But Shinji's story is just the surface. The other pilots and the adults around him aren't there just for pretty. They're living, breathing symbols of trauma, emotional walls, and the impossibility of truly connecting. Rei Ayanami, for example. The quiet, almost ghostly girl who barely seems to exist. She represents self-erasure. She's the embodiment of a blank slate, a vessel who struggles with identity. Rei doesn't just pilot an EVA, she pilots questions about what it means to be human when you're made to serve others, with no clear sense of self. Her silence is deafening. Every moment she looks away or refuses to express an emotion, it is a scream into the void about loneliness. Then there's Asuka Langley Sorrow, the firecracker, the girl who bursts into Tokyo Tree like a lightning bolt, full of bravado and confidence that barely covers her insecurities. She's the show's emotional hurricane, the I'm fine, really. Her fiery outbursts and fiery pride, they're all armor against the fear of being unworthy and unseen. Asuka's breakdown later in the show is painful because it tears off that armor, exposing the raw kid underneath who just wants to be loved for who she really is, not just for being strong. The adults? Oh, they're just as complicated. Misato Katsuragi is like that cool older sister who seems to have it all together, but her messy personal life, scars from their past, and the desperate attempts to keep the kids functional reveal she's barely holding on herself. She performs adulthood like an actor on the stage, but behind the scenes, she's crumbling. Gendo Ikari, Shinji's dad, is the emotional Arctic zone. His iciness isn't just a bad dad trope. Gendo is the embodiment of abandonment, control, and obsession. He sacrifices relationships, especially with Shinji, for a mysterious goal that the show slowly reveals, but it's clear that he views people as pawns. His fixation on saving humanity is a lonely, ego-driven quest that ironically dooms everyone around him to isolation. Now sprinkle in Kaji, the laid-back spy and smoother talker who is kind of everyone's morally ambitious uncle. Kaji's juggling secrets like a pro and reminds us that in this chaotic world there are adults who try to hold on to some semblance of humanity. His casual attitude towards danger is a front, but his insights about the human heart ground the series in something deeply real. He's the guy who drinks too much and tells uncomfortable truths, and exactly that's what everyone needs. And then, Kaworu Nagisa. Late but unforgettable. Kaworu is almost supernatural. Calm, gentle, and kinda in a way that disarms Shinji's guarded heart. He's the last angel, sure, but more importantly, he's the first person who offers Shinji unconditional acceptance, without demands or judgment. That moment, it's electric. I think Shinji felt the same, but it's also heartbreaking because Kaworu is doomed from the start. Shinji's choice to kill him is devastating. It's the ultimate betrayal and the ultimate act of love and pain wrapped into one. Kaworu represents the paradox of connection. It can save you, but it can also destroy you. And from episode 16 onward, Evangelion starts to really peel back the layers. The angels aren't just some monsters anymore. They're symbolic manifestations of the pilot's internal struggles. The show blurs the lines between external battle and internal war. The final 2 episodes of the series drop all pretense of conventional storytelling. No more plot threads, no clear fights, no easy resolution. Instead, we get an intimate dive into Shinji's mind, a therapeutic session in an anime form. We watch as he confronts his fears, desires, and the sense of self. The stage becomes a metaphor for human psyche, filled with empty chairs and walls that dissolve. It doesn't give answers. We see alternate timelines where Shinji's mother is alive and Asuka comes to pick him up. Everything seems fine. Ayanami is the new student and Misato is the teacher. The reality ends and we come to the end of the anime, and in the end, the therapy session was successful, as we see in the end, and everyone congrats Shinji. That's where you should know that everyone has become one and the loop starts over again into the next movie. So the original ending of Evangelion, yeah, it's weird. Some fans were like, wait, where's the giant robot action? Others were screaming at the screen, and some even sent death threats to Anno himself. Because when you're handed a puzzle and instead of answers you get a therapy session and abstract art, well, feelings happen. But the budget for the show was really running low, so that's why we got a movie. Or, let's say it like this, another loop. The end of Evangelion. Think of it not as a fix, but as an unfiltered, uncensored scream from the soul of the show. If the series was a whisper of pain, this movie is the pain screaming into the void. Let's talk about Asuka first, because she finally gets her moment to shine. Her battle against the mass-product Evas in one of the most iconic fights ever, it's a ballet of rage, skill, and desperation. Every punch she throws isn't just at robots, it's at her own demons. Her fears of insignificance, her rage, and being abandoned. Her struggles to prove she's enough. But there's the heartbreaking twist. Despite her incredible fight, Asuka is still just a fragile human underneath that armor. When the final moments come, she's left broken, a vivid reminder that no amount of fighting can erase trauma overnight. Meanwhile, Shinji's emotional breakdown is front and center. He's stuck in an ultimate teen crisis, except it's not just about school or crushes, it's about the end of the world. Watching him cry over a hospital bed isn't just sad, it's physical embodiment of someone drowning in guilt, confession, and paralysis. He's not a hero, he's just a scarred kid trying to decide if the world deserves to keep existing. Rey's transformation in the film is like something out of a cosmic horror and rebirth. She merges with Lilith, the source of life on Earth, becoming a godlike figure. Rey's act is both an ending and a beginning. She embodies the conflict between human connection and dissolution into the collective blurring lines between self and other. Instrumentality. The Human Instrumentality Project is the show's ultimate terrifying idea. Imagine everyone's pain, loneliness, and fear melting down in a collective consciousness where individuality disappears. Sounds nice, right? But it's also the nightmare because the pain of being you is what makes you yourself. This project promises escape from loneliness, but demands the death of the self. And this is where Kaworu's role comes into place. Though his screen time is brief, Kaworu's presence haunts the film, the ultimate what-if for Shinji. The choice to end Kaworu's life was Shinji's first real act of control and rejection over idolized love. In the end of Evangelion, Kaworu represents the fleeting possibility of true connection, lost too soon. By the way, you perhaps noticed this frame, but it is also why Kaworu wakes up in his tomb over and over again, each time a new loop starts. If you notice this frame and wonder what it is, now you know. He wakes up every time the timeline resets. After Shinji is going ego deaf and lost all mental stability, that's what marks the beginning of the instrumentality. Rei rejects Gendo and stops being used as a puppet, so she fuses with Lilith, and together with the embryo of Adam, they create a godlike being. The mass-produced Eva strangles Shinji onto a cross, and seeing Asuka's Eva 02 mutilated body summons the Spear of Longinus to Shinji. Lilith, taking the form of Rei, creates the Tree of Life out of Shinji and the Spear. Everyone becomes one once again. Lilith wants to understand Shinji's intentions, so she confronts him with his friends. For example, she takes Asuka as an instrument. Shinji tells Asuka that he loves her, but she harshly rejects him, telling him he doesn't even love himself and no one can fill the void in his heart. Shinji strangles the girl he loves, signifying his fertility on humanity. He's given up on it, and everyone should just die. He's unable to confront his demons, and so he can't understand the problems of everyone else around him. Now the ending, beach scene. Oh boy. Shinji and Asuka, the last two standing, are laying on the desolate shore, survivors of a collapsing reality. Shinji's attempt to strangle Asuka is a raw eruption of everything bottled inside. Fear, anger, loneliness, and a desperate cry for connection. Asuka's response? She touches his face and says, "How disgusting." It's brutal. It's awkward. This isn't a romantic reunion. It's not a happily ever after. It's two broken people meeting in the ruins, painfully aware of their scars and mistakes. They're survivors, not soulmates, and survival is messy, complicated, and uncomfortable. By the end, the world as we know is gone, and the barriers between the minds have crumbled. The question becomes, do we embrace the lonely self, or do we dissolve into the collective to escape pain? That's the brutal, beautiful heart of Evangelion, and it's not about winning or losing, it's about what it means to choose to live, even when the world is falling apart. And the important part is that this ending leads to a new loop, because Evangelion is all about it. It leads to a new Eva rebuild series, the real timeline. So in the anime, we see what Gendo Ikari was after, and everyone has become one, resetting the timeline. In the movie, we see Shinji strangling Asuka twice, rejecting humanity and also resetting the timeline, and now we are opening Pandora's box one more time. It's time to start all over again. For films that started out as a remake but quickly turned into their own wild beast, Evangelion 0.1 You're Not Alone basically retells the first 6 episodes of the original anime, but with the sharper animation and tighter pacing. Shinji arrives in Tokyo 3, gets thrown into Eva 01, and punches down angels like it's his job. We meet familiar faces like Misato, Rei, and this time Kaworu, waking up on the moon. Then comes 2.0 You Cannot Advance, where things start to get interesting. The story branches off from the original in a surprising way. First, Asuka shows up, but now she's Asuka Shikinami Langley, a different version of the classical character with a new backstory and a whole lot of attitude. She's more proactive and aggressive here, a real firecracker, and also throws in some brand new characters like Mari Makinami. She doesn't exist in the original series, and Mari is mysterious, bubbly, and unpredictable, basically the wild card of the group. She pilots her own Eva and often provides the comic relief but also hints at a deeper purpose. The stakes get higher, the angels are evolving, and the battles get more intense. The world's fate feels on a knife's edge, but even as the action ramps up, the films keep teasing a what-if vibe. Like maybe things could turn out differently this time. Turns out, this is the case, and Shinji goes berserk mode trying to save Rei. He makes a mental connection with the angel, the body of Adam, and the soul of Lilith, combining the core of the angel with everything, creating a new godlike being. 01 flares into the sky, and the world is covered in the third impact. Talking about a serious case of I didn't mean to do that. The story drifts into something else we have not seen before and reaches an end, but then suddenly Kaji commits a human sacrifice as Misato wants to join him. He tells her she needs to protect their unborn child. This man alone stops the third impact, but the world is changed from its core. The event is called the Near Third Impact. Shinji wakes up not 15 minutes later, but 14 years later, in a world turned upside down. Tokyo 3 is a ghost town, and Nerve is fractured. Misato is alive but leading a resistance, and everyone seems to be fighting a desperate battle against the organization called Ville. And on top of that, Shinji's relationships are in ruins. Rei changed, or rather, there are multiple Reis with confusing roles, and Asuka is changed and mad. In this part, he finds out about his mother, and that she lives on in Unit 01 due to a tragic event that he witnessed as a child. The narrative here is much darker, more fragmented, and intentionally confusing. The film drops you in the middle of chaos, forcing you to piece things together. And meanwhile, Kaworu, that angel-human hybrid, appears briefly and helps Shinji out. He takes the burden of sin from Shinji and puts it on himself. Together, they go inside EVA 13 and they get on a mission to collect the spears. Kaworu explains that only the spears can avert the damage Shinji has done, allowing to return to a world they once knew. Even though they don't have much information on the landscape, we can assume that Gendo was trying his hardest to get another impact. But now, Kaworu notices that both spears are the Spear of Longinus. The Spear of Cassius is missing, or replaced. He says to Shinji they should stop, but Shinji is blinded by his emotions. He takes both spears, Evangelion Unit 6 is removed from imprisonment, and its head comes out with the 12th angel. It combines with EVA 13 and awakens the EVA. The sky opens and allowing unborn souls to come forth. Kaworu explains that he was the first angel, Adam, and that he isn't in his final form yet, so he is also the 13th angel. Since Unit 13 needs an angel to be operated, he knew what he had to do. Shinji is now in a state similar to the one in the Neon Genesis series, and his self-entry plug is removed. The third impact was again somewhat avoided. Then we hit Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0, Thrice Upon a Time, the grand finale and probably the most emotionally satisfying entry. This film answers so many lingering questions and wraps up the saga in a way the original series never could. Shinji, Misato, Asuka, and the others finally confront the full truth behind Nerve, Seele, and the Human Instrumentality Project. We get to see Gendo Ikari's twisted plans laid bare, and Shinji's ultimate choice to either continue the endless cycle of pain or to break free. He calls out Asuka, and the two are reunited on the beach where it all ended. He thanks her for saying that she liked him, and says he felt the same. There are people who care for her, despite her childhood, and she was just too blinded to see it. And now she's sent to her happy ending. Now it's the angel's turn for a happy ending. Destined to meet every time, Shinji remembers all the times he met Kaworu in his past lives. In this zero space gap, everything comes forth. And thinking Kaworu's quest is to make Shinji happy turns out to be a way to make himself happy. Shinji was just a way to finding that happiness. And Shinji offers him a new existence where he can be happy for himself, together with Kaji and Misato. They build a new world and they receive a happy ending. Rei's left and satisfied where she is, not wanting to leave Shinji alone, but Mari states that it won't be a worry. She will stay on Shinji's side forever. Shinji offers Rei a own happy ending without Eva's, and she thanks him and leaves onto a new start. That leaves only your Eva pilot and Mari. In the climax, Shinji literally chooses to end the Evangelion story, shutting down Eva's and dismantling the cycle of destruction once and for all. Shinji walks away from the ruins of the old world after his mother takes the sacrifice, because she was there all the time. Gendo and Yuri die, and no giant apocalyptic merges this time. Instead, the world is reset or reborn without the trauma and cosmic horror. On a beach shore, Shinji sits down, alone and thinking, as Mari enters from the sky, assuring she would never break her promise. She used her Adam vessel consumed Eva to find Shinji, and she says goodbye to it for the last time. On a train station, we can see Asuka, Ayanami, and Kaworu talking, as everyone is living normal lives now. Only Shinji and Mari can remember the stuff from the past, and this is a so-called new world. The rebuild movies are basically Evangelion's director's cut on steroids, retelling with new characters, new conflicts, and a hopeful final message, plus they're gorgeous to watch, which is a bonus if you're sitting through existential dread. Although we never covered the rebuilds, it's time to answer the big question. Why is Evangelion considered a masterpiece, and what makes it so lasting, so influential, and so deeply felt even decades later? Evangelion's brilliance lies in the gusty blend of giant robot battles and deep psychological exploration. On one hand, you have all the explosive fights, apocalyptic stakes, and sci-fi world building. On the other, there's this raw, painful, honest look at what it means to be human, with all the fears, doubts, and messiness that come with it. Unlike the most anime heroes who I will protect the world, Shinji is more like that kid who just wants to say, hey, you're okay, and that's why so many people connect with him. Evangelion doesn't just sugarcoat pain or pretend problems vanish with big speech. It shows us the ugly, awkward, and sometimes terrifying struggle just keeps going. The fractured narrative, multiple endings, and symbolic imaginary aren't just confusing for confusion's sake. Unpredictable, messy, and full of unanswered questions. Evangelion's multiple endings, from the abstract therapy session of the original series, or the brutal apocalyptic ending of the End of Evangelion film, and finally to the hopeful reset in the Rebuild movies, reflects how much all face crises differently. Sometimes we withdraw inward, and sometimes we confront chaos head-on, and sometimes we find a way to move forward. And let's not forget how Evangelion changed the anime industry. It pushed boundaries of storytelling and animation, inspired countless creators, and helped anime become a global cultural force. The memes, the fan theories, tattoos, and endless fan art are proof. And Evangelion isn't just a show, it's a cultural phenomenon that keeps evolving. So what's the core message? Maybe it's this. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out. What matters is that you keep choosing to stay in the fight, for connection, for meaning, and for life itself. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Thank you for watching, and if Evangelion has ever meant something to you, whether it helped you through some tough times or just blew your mind, drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more explanation into anime. I love you all, and see ya in the next one.